Well, hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I am Brian and this is Gear and Gadget Reviews. And today I've got another power station for you guys. This is from Kingboss. It is a 500 watt hour lithium battery station. I will say I've used this twice on camping trips already to power my 12 volt fridges and it's worked perfectly. So when you get this thing, you get this, which is a first for me to see. It comes in this carrying case, which I like because it's foil lined, so it kind of helps protect it if it's out in the sun. It's not going to cook this thing as much, but it's just a bag. It's not that big of a deal. But here is the unit itself, right there. And you'll also get this little baggie. They actually send you a 3-in-1 charging cable. It's actually a USB cord with a lightning adapter, a micro SD adapter, and a Type-C fast charge. So it's a 3-in-1 cable they send you, which I'm not used to. You're gonna get your charging brick, and you're gonna get your car 12 volt charging cord as well. And this little neoprene bag that you can store all the stuff in. Again, this is a lithium battery station. This is not your lithium iron, so you're not gonna get as many charging cycles out of this thing as you will, say, a lithium iron battery station, where those typically you get 3,000. This one you're going to get anywhere between 500 to around 800 full cycles before your battery capacity it goes down to about 80%. So you're not going to get as many full charges out of this thing as you will a lithium iron. But in all fairness and in all honesty, probably a lot of us aren't going to use this thing 800 times. And if we do, it's going to be beat to heck, probably. That's just my theory. And then, you know, the technology will probably be better in 2 or 3 years that it's going to take you to use this thing that much. But with all of that aside, it is just your lithium battery instead of your lithium iron phosphate. The pros to that is it's much lighter than a LiPo4 battery. So it's a lot more portable, which is why I've used this on a lot more camping trips, because it is so light and you actually can move this around. You can carry it with you into the woods if you're, you know, tent camping or whatever. And it's 500 watts. So typically in the back of my truck, I use a little tiny 300 watt and that just powers all of my LED lights that I have in the back of my truck camper. This has a little bit more juice to it. It can run more powerful appliances, which is why I've used this to power my 12 volt fridge. And this thing ran my fridge all night long without a hiccup with juice to spare. So it completely runs my 12 volt fridge fine. Now running a fridge is a little different because it only pulls a lot of wattage when the compressor kicks on, so it's kind of on and off and on and off. But again, it still ran it for about 12 hours. So I woke up the next morning and it was cold and my eggs were not ruined. So it worked. But other than that, it's just, you know, your typical battery station. A little bit close up of it. You got a light here on the side. And you've got your fan, you know, over here on the side. Now, let me bring you guys in just a little bit closer and let you see some of the inputs and outputs on this thing. Okay, so looking here at the front of the screen, this is where your input, your charging input is going to be. So this is where you're going to plug it in, and to whatever you're going to be charging it, that's where it's going to go. You've got your 12 volt cigarette style input right here, and you've got two 12 volt 10 amp barrel inputs as well, and you turn this whole circuit on with this switch right here. So if you've got any DCs that you want to run, you plug them in and then you hit this button up top. Let me just go ahead and power it on. You hit the DC button and you can see it turns blue, meaning this is on. Cut that off. Down here you've got two 5 volt 2.4 amp USB-A plugs, and then you also have one quick charge 3.0 plug over here, and this again is on its separate circuit. So if you want to charge your phone, plug it in there, and then you're going to turn on your USB plug. That blue light cuts on, letting you know that these things are on. Cut that off. Then over here on the side, you're going to have your 500 watt AC plugs, and same as again, this is on its separate circuit. So you'll plug in your appliance and you will turn on that AC button right there. Okay, and you can tell I've got 3 watts. That's just the inverter kicking on. Since I have this button turned on, we can cut that off, and eventually that will go down to 0. There you go. This does show your input that you're using, and it also shows your amount of output that you're pulling from the battery. So whatever you plug in, this will tell you how many watts you're using. It's got a fuel gauge, and right now we're at 98%. So let's plug in a couple of things, and you can kind of see the display and how it tells you what's going on. So this little fan doesn't pull much juice, but just so you can see, what the display looks like. So again, I plugged it in. Let's turn on the inverter. Let's turn on the fan. And that feels good. And right now, this fan is pulling, I would guess probably it's gonna go up to 20-25 watts, which it tells you down there in the bottom left. Now this does not have a time to empty display, which I do wish it had. I really like having the displays that tell you how long you have remaining until this battery unit's dead. Unfortunately, this one does not tell you that, but it does tell you the amount of watts that you're using. So you can basically calculate yourself how long you have remaining left until this battery's dead, but that is one thing I wish that this did have. Okay, so guys, now I'm gonna plug in my portable air conditioning unit, and this thing takes about 250 watts. So you'll be able to see that this little power station can handle it. So let me plug this in. I'm gonna turn on my Zero Breeze Mark II, which pulls again around 200 to 250 watts on max mode. You can see here by the blue light, this thing is on. It is plugged in, and you'll be able to watch the wattage slowly rise up to probably end up being around 300 watts total with the fan going and the Zero Breeze going. Okay, so it's averaging around 300 watts. No problem at all powering the AC unit and the fan, and you could plug in a phone, charge an iPad, whatever you want out of these USBs, because you've still got 200 more watts left in the tank to use. So, okay, what a lot of people are curious about on these units is, can you charge it and use an appliance at the same time? So let's test that out. I've got the fan still running, and we're gonna plug in the charging brick to this and see if we can charge it and use it at the same time. And the answer to that is yes. Let me show you. So you can see here, I've got the fan running, which is pulling 37 watts, and I've also got the charging brick plugged in, and I'm inputting 102 watts. So you can run appliances and charge at the same time with this Kingboss 500. So again, folks, this is just your typical 500 watt battery power station. I find it really useful. This particular size is just easy to move around, and this has all the functions that I would ever need on a typical camping trip, or, you know, at home, charging phones, charging a laptop, whatever the case is. So let's go over just a few of the quick specs in case you're interested in this unit. It does weigh 11 pounds, so it is on the lighter side compared to some of these lithium iron phosphate battery stations. It is a 500 watt continuous rated power station up to 1,000 watt peak. So you can run 1,000 watts for a few short seconds if you need to, but 500 watt continuous. This thing does have a 24-month, 2-year warranty on it from the date of purchase. And using the supplied power brick, it's gonna take you about 6 to 6.5 hours to charge this via your AC wall outlet from 0% all the way up to 100%. And in terms of solar charging, you can input up to 100 watts of solar input into this thing with no problems. And that's basically it for all the specs that anyone might really care about. It's just a very nice, basic battery power station that I've used more than a couple of times out on my camping trips, that's actually ran everything that I've thrown at it, including 12-volt fridges again. So I have trust in this. But other than that, guys, again, the Kingboss 500, I've used it. I can vouch for it. That's my short, quick, honest review over this little guy. So guys, again, thanks for watching my reviews on these things, and we'll see you next time. Take care.